Hello everyone, this is Ajay and I'm starting a new series on Python where we are going to understand the basics of Python and then we're going to move to advanced. Now, if you are someone who wants to learn Python from the basics and also want to understand everything in detail, which normally you won't find anywhere else. So I would recommend you better follow this series. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to understand about Python and what exactly Python programming language is. So let me tell you that Python is Python is a general purpose programming language. Now, this is very important to understand, a general purpose. Now, why it is called as a general purpose language? Okay, a general purpose programming language. So, a general purpose, which means that using Python, you can develop multiple applications. Like you can develop a mobile app, right? Though it is not that popular, but yes, you can develop a mobile app and you can develop a web application. Now, this is very, very popular in Python because we use a special frameworks for this. We have the frameworks like Django and Flask, and using that, you can develop a web application and it's extremely popular. Okay, then you can work with AI, the data science. It's very, very popular language, and then we can also develop a desktop application, right? A desktop applications you can develop. So you can develop these multiple types of application, and that is the reason why it is called as a general purpose programming language. Now there are languages like JavaScript. If you talk about JavaScript, it is made for web development and basically the front end. So it works with the HTML, CSS, right? So it has a purpose. But as far as Python is concerned, Python is basically a backend. It uses as a backend, and yes, using Python we can develop multiple types of applications, and that is the reason why it is called as a general purpose programming language. Okay, now we will just shift over here, and we are going to understand what exactly is the difference between languages like C, C++, and Java, okay, and language like, okay, the difference between languages like C, C++, Java, and Python. Now, that is what we are going to understand. And this is very, very important to understand because you will be coding in Python, you will be working on Python, so you don't know what exactly the core difference is and what exactly the you know uh, how Python works and how the other programming languages work. So you should know that. Now let us begin. The first one, which is the most important one, and that is languages like C, C++, and Java. They are okay. We have basically static typing. Okay, they are statically typed. And Python, on the other hand, it is a dynamic programming language. So there is dynamic typing. This is the most important and the difference between the languages, the other languages, and Python. Now, what exactly do we understand when I say static typing and dynamic typing? Okay, I will just explain that over here. Okay, let us just shift it over here, and then we'll come back. Okay, so what does this static typing and dynamic typing, what exactly it means is, in static typing, okay, for example, I take a C program and I say void main, that's the main function, and then we have the brackets. Now what I do normally, if I have to declare a variable, I will simply say int a and semicolon, right? Int a and semicolon followed by the semicolon. This is the syntax rule. So we are basically telling the compiler that a is a variable of type integer. So obviously I can store integer values, absolutely not a problem. But what if I do something like this, you know, and I try to give a string. If I try to give a string, then there is a error. This is a error. Why? Because already we have declared a as integer variable. So we have to tell everything in advance, and that is the reason why it is static. Whereas Python, on the other hand, what happens is, okay, on the other hand, Python okay, is a dynamic programming language. So in Python, what happens is there is no declaration. Okay, we do not declare anything. We directly define it. So for example, if I want a variable which has to be integer, I will simply give a integer value. That's it. Okay. Now what happens over here is, over here, this is a integer value. Okay. So obviously a will be a integer variable, and then I can simply go ahead and I can print it. But then what I can do is I can give the value like a string value. Now this is absolutely okay in Python, because over here this is a dynamic typing. So over here this was an integer variable, but over here it became a string variable. And let me tell you that there is a term that is used for this, and the term that is used for this is, that is a duck typing. Okay, duck typing. What do you mean by duck typing? It is just a term that has been used. So duck typing basically means if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, right? Everything it is doing like a duck, so it has to be a duck. So what it means is that if this is an integer value, if I have assigned an integer value to a, so it has to be an integer variable. And over here, again, if I assign a string variable, a string value, then a has to be a string variable. This is what it basically means. So coming back, that was the point that over here. And please understand, this is what exactly dynamic typing means, that there is absolutely no declaration of variable. And why does that happen? When we have a dynamic typing, okay, then the translator has to be an interpreter. Whereas languages like C, C++, and Java, okay, it is a compiled language. Now it has its own advantages and disadvantages. And over here, this is a interpreted language. Okay, please understand that it is an interpreted language, which means that the code is getting executed line by line and not all at one. And that is the basic difference between a compiler and an interpreter. In compiler, the entire source code will be taken and it will be converted into the object code, into the machine code. But whereas in interpreter, only one line will be taken and it will be decoded. So this is very much required for a for a dynamic programming language. So if there is a dynamic typing, so it has to use an interpreter. The compiler won't work in that case, as I've explained over here. Okay, because this is how it actually works. So there is no declaration, and there is a duck typing feature that we use. Okay, so this is the major difference, the static typing and dynamic. So Python is a dynamic programming language. The another language that comes to my mind is a JavaScript. In JavaScript is a, we have a dynamic typing over there. Okay. Now, this is compiled and interpreted, and this somewhere, as compared to Python, it will have a bit complex syntax. That is the rules of using that language of typing, how you type the code. Whereas Python, we have a better and a simple syntax to understand. Okay, so these are some of the major differences between C, C++, and Java and Python. Okay, now please understand that in this series, this is just a first video, just an introduction. And as a coder, and if you want to become a Python coder, then these are some of the things that you should know about Python before we start the Python. okay, programming. So I'm going to keep this video a bit short since this is just a first video, but in the upcoming videos we are going to understand everything in detail about Python. So stay tuned and keep on following the series. Thank you so much.